So, what exactly is a rite of passage? This is not always a familiar term in Western culture, and specifically American culture, because we as a society are sadly lacking in widespread, deep-rooted community rites of passage. Rites of passage are generally understood to be ceremonies or rituals that celebrate transcendence, the movement of one state of being to another. They can be spiritual, religious, or cultural in nature, or even a combination of all of those. Examples could include something like a birthday party, marking the passage of time, or a retirement party, commemorating the end of a career. When you break down a rite of passage, the exact elements depend on many factors, including what the spiritual and/or cultural context is. My specific spiritual path is heathenry, which is the contemporary practice of Germanic and Scandinavian paganism. I share this path with Irene, a path that is, for the most part, a reconstructed tradition. It is in the process of being rebuilt with love and patience, and also with a lot of tearing out of rotten roots and planting entirely new seeds to nurture. To give you some background, heathenry is a modern term, reclaimed from the original pejorative meaning of what essentially referred to a country bumpkin from out in the wilds who still worship the old gods. So as a way to integrate an element of heathenry into our commissioning service today, Irene and I, after this sermon, my part, will asperge each other with cool, clean water and a stalk of locally sourced mugwort. So mugwort, or Artemisia vulgaris, is a plant native to Europe, Asia, and Africa, but it now grows in the United States as well, and it is considered an invasive in this country. But its leaves have a beautiful silvery underside, and it has a savory, sage-like aroma. I wrote this asperging ritual into our service for a few reasons. One being that in our practice, mugwort is a holy herb. In the Lacnunga, a 9th century Old English manuscript of medieval healing remedies, there is a spoken healing spell, also called a galder, known as the 9 herbs charm. The first part of the charm is as follows. Mind you, mugwort, what you disclosed, what you rendered at Regenmeld. The first you are called, oldest of plants. You are mighty against 3 and against 30. You are mighty against poison and against infection. You are mighty against the evil that roams the land. This powerful plant is highly regarded. The introduction of mugwort into our ritual has symbolic meaning and also practical purposes. Mugwort has traditionally been used as a purification method. In my practice, burning a bundle of dried mugwort and allowing the smoke to float over a person, an item, or just a space can cleanse away unwanted or negative energy. So by incorporating this sacred plant into our service, we have added to the liminal aspect of a rite of passage. We enter this space as we are, and we leave this space forever changed. Because that's what a rite of passage is about, celebrating change. Holding space for transformation in a community setting is an ancient practice, almost as old, one might think, as humanity itself. The importance of community involvement cannot be stressed enough. We are not islands. We do not evolve and transform in a vacuum. If you pluck one thread, other threads will reverberate and respond. What changes you will also change your community. So, amongst the Sami people of Finland, there's a ceremony known as the bear hunt, which functions in some ways as a rite of passage. The oldest documented account of one of these rituals is from the early 17th century. and tells of how a new hunter who had never killed a bear before would go out into the forest with the rest of the hunters to track and ritually slaughter a bear. The bear would then be brought back to the village where it would be honored, carefully prepared, and then would feed the community. This ceremony shared many aspects of a wedding ritual, down to the type of songs sung in honor of the bear. Some of the symbolism of this ceremony was that the bear represented the wild nature spirits, often feminine in nature, of the surrounding land, and the hunter was her groom, binding himself and his community in union to the land. He enters the hunt as he is and leaves it forever altered, shape-shifting into a new role as a community provider and as someone who helps maintain the balance between wild and tame, nature and humans, chaos and cultivation. We, as Unitarian Universalists, are a covenantal community. Covenanting is a practice, a way of living in right relationship with each other. It is in some ways similar to an oath in heathenry, one of the most sacred and powerful acts a practicing heathen can engage in. Taking an oath changes you, as does entering a covenant. By entering into this agreement today, I am binding myself to this community, this congregation, in a covenant of service. In heathenry, we have a concept called weird, W-Y-R-D. It's essentially the threads of energy that bind us to each other. Engaging in an oath, whether by making the oath, receiving the oath, or simply witnessing the oath, is an act that reverberates. We are tying our community weird together today, which is why it is so vital to practice consent and informed covenanting. We are also imperfect beings, so there is grace for that written into the verbiage of the covenant we made. Even so, this is an act of faithful risking, engaging in an action even though we don't know with certainty how every detail will play out. It can be uncomfortable and even scary, but it is our choice that we are making together. So back to the original subject, how do we solve this problem of a lack of cultural community rites of passage? I believe we need to start on a micro level. Think about any rites of passage you currently practice for yourselves or your family and loved ones. It can be as simple as starting back with birthday traditions. My brother-in-law, Ben, has a tradition in his family that I love watching when we gather at their house for my nephew's birthdays. My nephews are right over there. They have a colorful dinner plate that says, "Today you are special," and the person celebrating their birthday gets to have their dinner on that plate. So my nephews Nathan, Donovan, and Felix love having this plate to designate them as the star of the day. Celebrating and crafting rites of passage can be fun and easy, as mentioned above. By adding in personal elements brick by brick, you can build foundations for all types of ceremonies. I would encourage you to think about what types of life transitions you want to celebrate or commemorate, and think of ways you can craft meaningful traditions that you would want to continue and pass down. By having this service today, designating my initial commissioning and the renewal of Irene's commission, we as Unitarian Universalists are helping to build a rich tapestry of liminal celebrations. Think of all the way UUs have incorporated rites of passage. For example, just recently, our Director of Religious Education, Layla, and some very devoted RE staff members helped facilitate a rite of passage for our youth. These community rituals are so important, and it is vital that we support and nurture them. I am honored and grateful for the chance to build this covenantal relationship today with all of you, the people of UUCF. As I officially step from one role to another, we will all make this journey together.
So, in what should not be a surprise for anyone who knows me even a little bit, I am a former theater kid. Where some families are focused around sports, my family of origin was focused around the arts. I have been a performer my entire life. As a member of a theater family, this meant that as I was growing up, my wheel of the year, the anchors that helped me connect to the passage of time, took the form of a series of theatrical productions. For people who do not know, there's a pretty regular rhythm to the kinds of theater that kids are often involved with. There's generally a spring production and a fall production. My family was also associated with a rather large ballet studio. My mother made costumes, my father helped backstage, and my sister and I both danced. So to the theater schedule, we also added a spring ballet and a production of the Nutcracker that ran during Yuletide. My sister and I also both sang, so there were choir performances in the mix as well. This is where I get that habit of having too much on my schedule. The communities of different theater groups and ballet studios are fairly consistent year to year. This means that when everyone comes together to bring the next production to the stage, most of the faces are the same. There's a beautiful progression over the passage of time as well. Children who were once the little toy soldiers and angels in a production of the Nutcracker progress through the different dances, eventually growing into the more difficult roles in Waltz of the Flowers, Candy Canes, or Snow. Young actors who were once members of crowd scenes or had walk-on roles with a single line progress to leading role performances. We return again and again to the same basic pattern, but our relationship to it deepens and changes over the years. I suspect this pattern of regular seasonal gatherings with a bonded community is one of the many things that draws me to paganism. There is a natural ebb and flow with seasonally anchored community celebrations and ceremonies. It's almost like breathing. We inhale, coming together to mark a transition in the seasonal cycle. We exhale, carrying that transition out into the world. And then we inhale again, coming together once more. This slow rhythm of drawing together to mark a specific moment and then returning to our day-to-day lives is part of every human culture I have researched over the years. Since written records began, human civilization in every corner of the world has been anchored by seasonal community ceremonies. It is so easy now to lose track of time, to experience the year as a blur. My blackberries started coming in this past week, and I thought, surely not. Oh, right, it's the end of July. And this is particularly true for those of us who are working age and just desperately trying to survive a late-stage failed capitalist hellscape. We live in an environment where ever-present media devices of various sorts are intentionally designed to distract and isolate us. Parents are spending more time now on labor outside the home and on active parenting simultaneously than the generations before them. We are desperately just trying to manage this onslaught in order to survive. But we run the risk of racing through life, nose to the grindstone, and missing out on all of the incredible beauty and connection all around us. Seasonal celebrations hit the pause button on that cycle. These events root us deeply to this one beautiful earth we share, while strengthening the ties of community. We look up and remember that we are part of something more. We rekindle friendships and connections. We recognize that we are part of the natural cycle of this planet and not separate from it. It is no surprise to me that the friendships from my childhood that remain are not the ones from the public school I attended. They're the ones from theater, ballet, and choir. The people who turned the wheel of the year with me, season after season, singing together into winter, dancing together out into springtime. There is a reason that every culture in the world develops a seasonal holiday cycle that brings people together while marking moments of transition in the year. Deep down in our DNA, we carry this memory, this pattern of this form of connection. We replicate it whether we realize it or not. We time our yearly activities to fall in a cycle, bringing us into the same patterns with the same people year after year. This is part of why the performance calendar was so important to me as a child. Seasonal ceremonies and celebrations are part of how humans are in relationship to the world. Many of my strongest friendships now are with the people who help turn the wheel of the year with me, the members of this community who consciously and intentionally pause in this crushing whirl of activity. Those of us who make the time to mark with ceremony our own relationship to this one world we share. We remind ourselves of where we are, of the changes to the land around us, of what that meant for our ancestors and can mean for us now, and of what it is to be part of a community that dances the cycle of nature together. This is one of the threads of meaning that builds the resilience we all need to survive. It reminds us that there's more to all of this. We are more than our jobs and responsibilities. We are more than what we own or how much money we make. We are part of a living, breathing, growing, changing, and transforming world. And likewise, we are part of a living, breathing, growing, changing, and transforming community. In the culture of the United States, it's easy to think of holiness as something that's limited to the specific recitation of mythology or relegated to some very specific ceremony forms. But holiness simply means something that is regarded with deep respect, awe, reverence, or adoration. Seasonal ceremonies center this form of holiness, the sacred connection we all have to the world around us and its changing seasons, the sacred connection we have to each other as we journey together through this changing world. One of the greatest strengths of Unitarian Universalism is pluralism. We are presented with so many opportunities to experience holiness through the seasons, from flower communion to Christmas Eve to ancestors' rituals to labyrinth walks and more. We are given the opportunity to pause, to recognize the moment we're in and all its potency, to see the beloved community bearing witness to us, and to step forward into the next season more deeply rooted to this miraculous experience of living. So in the coming moments, I invite you to stand in body or in spirit. We're going to do another chant. It's one of Ursa's favorites. It's called the Grandparents' Chant. So I'm going to grab my drum and go over there.